remembered. All of a sudden there was a light, and then I was falling.
For anyone that thinks that these films are simply mindless action, think of the social commentary on display by the film's opening. An introspective scene of the human condition as mankind entered the year 2020 in an utter freefall. After his impression of Disney's crash-landing stock price, a drug cartel enforcer is on call to show our diving expert the ropes on how to make friends, with MS-13 levels of recruiting.
Put your money on the guy with the gun!
His fellow playmates for today's Bloodsport include Kung Fu Bandit, FBI Most Flaunted, Wesley Snipes, Vladimir Putin, Doogie Howser, Selma Hayek, and Danny Trejo. I think I've satisfactorily insulted all races and ethnicities.
And the Dutch.
What? You son of a bitch.
Royce, our resident tough guy, is fine with this family circus of trained killers following him as long as he can remain unidentified as their scout leader. What starts with a makeshift compass doing more spins than the mainstream media covering an election culminates as an in-your-face epiphany. Something is rotten in the state of Denmark.
The Dutch.
What?
If that isn't bad enough, Wesley Snipes can't shake the feeling he's being watched. It's always the black people to notice first.
I just got a weird feeling something bad is heading my way, like when you see an Asian person behind the wheel of a car.
The natural-born killers are beset upon by alien bloodhounds, which, considering how their 2020 freefall went, could have been a lot worse. Much a lot worse. They rip, they tear. They are there to kick names and take ass. When the dogs are called off by a distant dinner bell, which admittedly would send them in the direction of their prey, not away from it, but reasons! The Boy Scout leader's got a spoiler alert. He's read this script. He knows after 3 bad Terminator films, Arnie should have returned for at least this Predator sequel, but it's too late for all that now. Also, they're being hunted, so an ammo check might be in order before they get the ever-loving hell Predatored out of them to Kingdom Come. Danny Trejo was the first to blow this taco stand, as well as his hopes for franchise success, to launch the Machete films, which I kid you not, as God is my witness, that is why he was killed off early in this film.
Whew, I did not see that coming.
One by one, each member cancels their membership to the Suicide Squad in what can only be described as refusal to cross a border to rescue a Mexican. For shame. This movie could have never been made in insert current year. I mean, the thought that the PC police would ever let a travesty like this happen in 2000 and insert current year staggers the mind. I mean, could you even imagine in the year insert current year something like this getting past them? The natural-born killers stumble upon the remains of the DC universe. That one there was the hope of Shazam making $1 billion. Just when they come across a captured Rastafari hung up because of a hangover from too much red stripe, Wesley Snipes' tax evasion catches up with him.
It's a trap.
It's a trap.
It's a trap.
It's a trap.
It's a trap!
Royce opens fire to let God sort him out, but quickly learns that the superior firepower ain't on his side. The family circus tucks tail and bails as they're shown what real natural-born killers look like, as they're given a send-off with salvos of CGI fireworks. With all that excitement, they decide they could use a drink. The final reveal of the Rastafari on Safari is shown in what can only be described as badass. Selma Hayek spills the rice and beans, informing them that she recognizes the Rastafari on the totem, matching the description of a convenience store robbery. A creature that single-handedly took out almost every member of a highly trained special ops team in 1987. which, considering their family circus is anything but united, and are being hunted by 3 of these that have already taken out 2 of their party and strung up a Rastafari, I'm not liking their chances. Catching wind that there's an opening in the diversity quota now that Wesley Snipes has been bumped off, Lawrence Fishburne applies for membership. He adopts the family circus as his own and takes them to his shelter. A dilapidated roof over their head, cold food in their bellies, and an exposition dump. Fishburne invites his family to gather round, childrens, and explains he's been there for 10 hunting seasons, telling the tale of the blood feud between the bigger and the smaller Rastafari. Scout Leader is only interested in the story of escape when his foster father explains the Rastafari have an alien spacecraft. With the family circus having fled the previous fireworks display by their hosts, the Rastafari posse decide it's time to bring the party to them. The ungrateful family circus again opts to make haste when one of the more thoughtful Rastafari feels that all Vladimir Putin needs is a pick-me-up. So appreciative of this courtesy, Comrade Wolf repays the kindness at long last releasing his inner child. Considering the FBI's most wanted's quick wit and smart mouth sees him almost run away with this whole damn movie, the Berserker Rasta decides to relieve him of both and remind everyone watching that it is indeed his damn movie. Kung Fu Bandit crosses swords with the Booka Man.
Can you dig it, sucker? Sucker!
And Doogie Howser is revealed to be guilty of malpractice. Scout Leader decides to cut a deal by cutting down hungover Rastafari in exchange for borrowing the car keys, promising to do a beer run for more Red Stripe back on Earth. Berserker Rasta now has to answer for the crimes of leaving a drunk homie out to dry, while Scout Leader courageously elects to let them sort it out. Berserker Rasta uses his drinking friend's inebriation to his advantage and even pours one out for his homie and slams the brakes on Scout Leader's escape plan. It was heading to Philadelphia anyway, so it would have suffered the same fate. Once Doogie Howser's license and lifeline have been revoked, Scout Leader uses him to send a message to the last Rasta standing, fireworks of his own. To bury the hatchet, Scout Leader invites Rastafari to join him for a mud spa and hot yoga, but as the midnight hour looms, Rasta recognizes daylight comes and him want go home. Selma Hayek takes exception to this rejection and gives him a 7 caliber counteroffer. Scout Leader, being the more even-tempered, especially considering Selma Hayek's fiery Latina temper, adjusts his previous proposal and, in the spirit of Thanksgiving, just buries the hatchet, Pilgrim style. And the two lived happily, open-ended ending.
Finn.
I love this movie. I appreciate that this film is all about tactics. Along with jumping right into the action with the freefall, I like that an early scene is a subtle callback to a later Last Stand by the Spec Ops team from the original film. Is the movie perfect? No. The fight scenes were a bit underwhelming. Seeing as how this is the first time you ever see one Predator fight another, I do wish it would have been more compelling and memorable. The sword fight was disappointing. The final duel was just missing something. None of these are bad, they're just missing that key ingredient to make them noteworthy. I wish Royce's reluctant leader and Isabel's peacemaker roles were more emphasized, which reminds me, more agency was very much needed for this supporting cast. The movie tips its hat too early that Royce and Isabel are the two leads, and while I like them, they really should have stuck to the premise as an ensemble cast to raise the other characters up to their level. As much as I'm digging this film, I gotta call it out. I hate when movies have a slimmed down cast and don't maximize on character development. You've got 108 minutes to make me care about these people. All of them. And also, more Danny Trejo. On that note, despite the film's serious tone, but the franchise's comical quality, Stans, the FBI's Most Wanted, played by Walton Goggins, shows that the comedic moment of this movie can fit within a darker tone, without resorting to slapstick, even if it is isolated to a single character. That's an absolute win in my book for future entries in this franchise. His character as a comic relief never lapses into cringe, and I think he carves out a notable niche between Jesse the Body Ventura and Bill Paxton. Truly an underrated performance. Alice Braga playing the role of Selma Hayek is a real standout. She comes off like a competent marksman and always stayed cool under pressure. Mahershala Ali went on to the bigger and the better, winning 2 Oscars and a standout performance in Marvel's Netflix's Luke Cage, proving his talents here were wasted. In light of the movie's darker tone, I could have used more horror. The scene just after the Bloodhound attack, where the team abandoned Danny Trejo to his fate, the fact that it is revealed that this character was already dead, and that his slayers were trying to trap their prey and proceed to taunt their quarry sent chills up my spine.
Help me! Help me!
It's a trap.
It's a trap.
It's a trap.
Yeah, more of that. Despite the subtle build-up, I feel this film hits its peak right after the Predators are revealed, because for me the third act kind of falls apart. A better Nolan depiction really could have gotten this film over the hump. The thought of not just a survivor living amongst the monsters is appealing territory to me, but also a scavenger amongst the hunters. Sadly, much like the film, this promising character peaks at the exact moment of his awesome reveal. The Yakuza and FBI Most Wanted needed better weapons. I mean, you're gathering the best hunters from Earth, and all he's got is a knife. The thought of 2 people working together to take down one predator was a nice touch, and helped to differentiate it from the last stands of the 2 previous entries. And now for some unpopular opinions. Yours, I mean. My opinions are undeniable. The character of Royce. I've heard just about every complaint under the sun for this cast member. He's not Arnie. He sounds like Batman. Yeah, because we've never had characters with raspy voices before. I guess it's only a problem if you're not a villain. Instead of concerning myself with the figure that he's not, or the persona that he's like, allow me to take the middle ground approach and praise the character that he is. Adrian Brody's casting creating unease amongst the fanbase is frankly unwarranted, because he is believable as a reclusive mercenary. If you had an Academy Award winner star in a horror film today, either fans or industry insiders would piss their pants yellow over crossover appeal like they did with Rob Zombie, like they do now with Ryan Gosling. Furthermore, how many times has the likes of IGN bent over backwards to brown their own nose over the undue praise of casting against type? Yeah, how did that work out for Lex Luthor in BVS? You ain't gonna get me to say a cross word about this performance, because they took a friendly neighborhood geek in the King Kong remake and made a credible badass out of him. Another criticism I'd like to debunk is the rogue predators in this flick. The Slayers to me are a major boon to the film and its overall mythos. As I understand, writer-producer Robert Rodriguez's decision not to adapt any of the Predator graphic novels, in a roundabout way, did just that. Dishonorable predators known as Bad Bloods are a long-standing mainstay within comic lore. He inadvertently made the ultimate Dishonored by making the Bad Blood its own subspecies. This decision truly contextualizes the Predators as villains when you strip them of the one thing keeping this race in check, an honor code. With all the technological prowess at this alien's disposal, the only thing stopping them from conquering other worlds has been the thrill of the hunt. What this Judas offshoot of the noble savage represents is a true danger to humanity and the greater universe, and I feel that this is something worth commending and frankly overlooked. As far as the look, what are you people complaining about? This monster looks like a cross between the Predator and Freddy Krueger, the bastard son of 100 hunting grounds. Everything from the swept back dreads to the more crustacean appearance. I'm a fan of this makeup effect and believe it's suitably intimidating. This looks like it can kill a predator. So, with that in mind, hats off to K&B for this creature design. As far as this hunter trio is concerned, they did right what AVP failed at. They're not just 3 random warriors, but their expertise is tied to the hunt. Speaking of which, the Bloodhounds were an inspired choice. These offer a peek into this race's world and presents a plausible method of hunting for these rogue predators. The horns on their body and adorned on their handler's mask make for great props and tell a story all their own. Whether horror buffs or this franchise's fanbase acknowledge it or not, this entry serves as a step in the right direction for the series, one that I hope won't be discarded in future entries regardless of the media type. And the best part is, they never made another Predator sequel again. By all means, and before I forget, check out the 6-part series AVP 3 World War comic, released the same year as this film. It's highly recommended and well worth a read, if you're so inclined.
Warn your friends. Warn everyone.